Muy bien, excelente. Bueno, pues es un honor para mí presentar esta último bloque, el último bloque que habla exactamente del tema que nos compartía la anfitriona pasada, es acerca de digitalización. Entonces, pues, para entrar un poquito más en materia, como ya hemos venido durante todo este proceso de Submit, es acerca de repensar el modelo de negocios, empresas, organizaciones, entidades, y para eso viene esta herramienta que es la digitalización. Esto pues ya conocemos que es un proceso mediante el cual pues vamos a convertir lo tradicional en un ámbito digital. Obviamente es un gran paso para las empresas. Personalmente me ha costado un poco entrar en materia junto con la empresa donde estoy colaborando, pero sin duda es una gran herramienta, es la actualidad y esto nos ayuda a ser más eficientes. Además, nos ayuda a ahorrarnos dinero, esfuerzo y nos ayuda a potencializar a nuestro talento dentro de las empresas. Entonces, bueno, para comenzar con este bloque, me gustaría eh, introducir a Rudrared Mitra. Está con nosotros por aquí. ¿Me escucha? Do you hear me?
Hey.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm good. Can you see me?
Yeah.
It's quite dark here, so.
Perfectly. Yeah, it's good. Don't worry. Okay. Well, I'm going to be introducing you to all our audience. So, to talk about a little bit of you, me gustaría decirles un poquito de la reseña de Rudrared. Well, he's a founder of Omdina. Omdina is this platform to build innovative, ethical, and efficient EA and data science solutions to real-world problems. Correct? So he started his career on artificial intelligence research in 2002. He worked in research labs, startups, and banks to build EA products. Also, after he graduated from University of Cambridge, he entered in the startup world and built 6 tech startups in 4 different countries. He also enjoyed sharing this knowledge and experiences. He's a mentor of Google Launchpad, collaborates in WeWork Labs, and he's a senior EA advisor in EFMA. Recently, he wrote his first book titled Creative Value with Artificial Intelligence, Lessons Learned from 10 Years with Building EA Products. Well, he is a speaker, he is a mentor, he's an engineer, and he's Rudrared Mitra. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here today. The audience is all yours.
Thanks a lot for that introduction. I'm sorry I didn't get you in Patri here, right? Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the introduction. And I'm glad to be here to present. Let me make the full screen. Awesome. So I'm going to talk today about building real-world AI solutions through collaborative and global teams. You guys can hear me, right? So if I can take this out, but I'll just wear these headphones actually. So I will not introduce myself. Patricia did a very good job, so I'll just skip this slide. So I'll spend today. I want to talk about that. I've broken down my today's talk into 5 different parts. So the first, I want to talk about why most AI fails. And then I will talk about how can we build AI solutions for success. And then I will give some examples of the work that we have done, and then argue that why the model that we have built works, and why is that perhaps not only that it works, it's a very good model to build ethical and inclusive solutions. And then finally, I'll conclude the talk with some opinions. There's a spelling mistake in the conclusion. So the current state of machine learning and data science, despite having so many people talking about that it's a huge thing, you'll be surprised to know that 87% of all AI projects fail to make into production. And that means that spending millions and millions of dollars being spent to build solutions that are never gone to production. So loss of opportunities, creating frustration and waste of money. I mean, that's just not acceptable in any sector. Yet, company after company are spending more and more money in AI and failing. Now, to understand that why there's a reason of failure, what I understand after talking to many companies and over the last 10, 12 years being in AI, the first is that there's a lack of inclusiveness, which means that the people who are developing these solutions don't have are not a wide group of people from different backgrounds, different culture, different education level. So, for example, Amazon. I mean, Amazon hired some of the best engineers in the world, and still they ended up building a solution which was for hiring was a sexist, because the engineers that were building the solution were predominantly male, and they didn't think that the data that they're using to build the solution is has a bias, because typically hiring in tech industry has a bias towards male. So but the male engineers, when they were coding, they didn't think the data would be a bias. Had they have more female in the team, they would have immediately pointed out that, hey, look, the data that we are using will have a bias, so let's kind of unbias the data. But that they didn't do. And this we see not only in Amazon, this we have seen in Microsoft, we have seen over and over again in many, many companies. So that's the first part, that the people, that we need a more diverse group of people who are building the solutions. The second is the process. The companies have to use a more agile, more startup-driven processes, because if they typically build a solution that, okay, we build something, we'll then go and launch to millions of users and they will start using it, it doesn't work because it fails. And I've spoken to many banks around it, and they have the same problem. So that's the next part, is the process. And in fact, I was speaking to a conference today in Macedonia, also online, and one of the guys said that he read an article. He says that 90% of the problems can be solved by the right people and process. Technology is actually only the 10% of the cause, and which I completely agree. And the third part of this is that we live in a society which is very competitive in nature. So people often, department after department, they work in silo. So they don't, they're competing with each other, not kind of helping each other, not being an environment where the knowledge is being properly shared. So unless we create an environment where knowledge is being shared, where it's a more diverse group of team and have the right process, we'll end up building solutions that will fail. So if you ask me, and many people agree that if we want to build AI for success, what we definitely need is a more collaborative process, which is with and for all, which is including everyone, where different people, different backgrounds are part of building the solution, because we're dealing with the data, which is sometimes personal. And then we will end up building AI which is trustable, ethical, and efficient. And this is something we actually, I cannot stress more on this kind of process, that it has to be a very collaborative process, because no person in the world, like I often think about people and professors in universities in MIT say, oh, we'll build an ethical solution. And I say, no, you cannot, because a professor in US will never know what a person in Africa or in Mexico is going through. You cannot define ethics as being a person sitting in one place defining ethics for everyone, because it's a very subjective, and you have to involve the people to build the solution. And in fact, Mackenzie, 3 weeks ago, they wrote an article about it, and they actually say that organizations have to build AI for and with everyone. But of course, my question is, okay, is Mackenzie the right organization to build such a solution? Of course not, but at least they acknowledge the fact that yes, we need to build AI with and for everyone. So coming back to the point which I said, that there are 3 pieces. If we want to build AI solutions for the future, there are 3 pieces. We have to pick the right people, we have to provide them the right process, and we have to give them the right technology. So right technology means right platform, right tools, right libraries. And this is what we have done. So what we have been able to do in the last 1 year since we started, that we have been able to build a platform where people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, different cultures, time zones, can come together, collaborate, and build AI solutions. So we have over 1,200 AI and domain experts who have collaborated from 82 countries and have worked on 21 projects. And each project is a 2 months long duration. where they're building something interesting using AI, which is within organization. And who are these people now? These are not just students, and of course these are people who are learning, people who wants to learn, but they're also people from big companies like Google, Microsoft, data scientists, lead data scientists from UPS, professors from universities, business schools, doctors. So it's a diverse group of people that we bring in. In fact, we analyzed the data and we saw who are these people that are actually coming together and working with us for this in this platform. We see 35% of them are lead machine learning are women, and 30 to 35 are collaborators are women, which is quite unheard of in this AI sector, because where normally in AI, 10% or less of 10% are women. And the experience level of these people come from 12 months to 15 years of working in data science and machine learning, and age group from 70 to 65. So we really bring this very diverse group of people from different continents, countries to come together and build something. And we have been able to prove that. Now, in some ways, you might think, wow, that sounds very great and fascinating, but does that really work? And actually, we have been able to build those solutions with different organizations from UNHCR, World Energy Council, World Resource Institute. And I'll talk about some of those solutions that we have built today so that you get an idea of what type of work that we have been able to achieve in this. We have also been covered in Forbes and the Next Web. So, and we see that what we are talking about, this collaborative environment is actually getting a lot of attention now, specifically in COVID times. I mean, in the last 1 month, we already signed deals with 4 organizations that want to work with us from France, Singapore, Switzerland, Israel, US. Shell is actually saying that they want to partner with us. The United Nations want to work with us. So we do see a lot of interest going forward. So that proves that what we have been talking about, that we need to truly build a collaborative environment to engage and build solutions, is what other organizations and even big ones are actually getting it now. So examples. So I told you that I'll give you some of the examples that we are able to do work. So I will pick 1 or 2 examples, and I'll be happy to go in details if someone wants to know them. So for example, we worked in Nepal with the World Food Program, and our goal was to understand classifying crops and different types of crop through satellite images, and which is very useful for governments and World Food Program to know who is growing what kind of crop, because they cannot go to all of these remote parts of Nepal. We also worked with a Swedish startup that were trying to identify trees, because what they saw, the trees often, when they fall on top of the overhead cables, they cause power outages and fires. So we were through satellite images identifying trees. Or in Brazil, we worked with a small SME, a small, not a startup, but more of a small business, which we're solving, trying to identify forest fire. And they have cameras installed, and their existing solution was not very accurate. Similarly, we worked on Chicago to understand, sentiment analysis, to understand whether gangs what type of tweets they're using. Or we have worked with in India with the World Resource Institute to understand connection between land conflicts and policies. So I'll give you an example of one of the one which you worked in Chicago with the organization. So what we did was, first we analyzed what the gangs, the Chicago gangs, are talking on Twitter, and they often don't use the same language. For example, English. They use their own code language. So we built a solution that was able to analyze that language, and then what we try to understand is that if the gangs are threatening and using violent languages on Twitter, does that actually reflect in real world also in crime? And we saw that in the same day, when we analyzed the number of crimes and threatening tweets, on the same day, there was not a correlation. But when we did a 2-day shift, then we saw a correlation. What does that mean? That the gangs are threatening each other, and then in 2 days' time, they're actually also having a real violence. And we then did something like a network analysis where we are trying to see who are the ones which gangs are the ones who are threatening, because then we can analyze, not only know there is going to be a violence, we also would know where the violence is happening, because gangs typically limit within an area. So on the other hand, we worked with, for example, in Nigeria to understand what parts of Nigeria need solar power. So for that, we analyzed through the satellite images, see whether where are the dark areas at night, and then we looked at data points on the ground, like what are the population and what is a national grid. And we identified areas which were away from the national grid, which has a large population and which is dark at night. And then we build a map which is also interactive and it's online, that they can go to politicians and show, hey, look, these are the places that we need solar power. Or even in Somalia, we worked with UNHCR to understand the relation between conflicts and climate change, and then able to somehow predict potential conflicts, because we saw that whenever there is some climate anomalies like droughts, within a month or so there is a conflict. So these are the different things that work. I mean, we also worked on something like AI planning, and I'll give you one example, which is on work with Istanbul, where the goal was to find the best route from point A to point B. So what we did is, for example, the goal of that project was, Impact Hub said that when an earthquake happens, one of the first concerns that people have is how can we reach from point A to point B, and what is the safest route to reach from point A to point B. So to understand that, how we first analyzed satellite images here again, and kind of saw that there are different, the most congested area in Fateh is a district in Istanbul. We then mapped the buildings and then created something like a heat map, which means that which shows the congestion area of that area. And because we can assume that when an earthquake will hit, the parts which are most congested will not be safe to go, and the parts which have a more open spaces like parks and things will be more safe. So we try to build that kind of heat map based on the congestion through satellite images, and then we build a planning algorithm. So you can see here that the blue line is the one which is going from point A to point B, is a Google recommended path, which is the shortest path. But the yellow line is the one which we recommend, because that goes to the area which is least congested. So then this is a solution that kind of, this is a path that we recommend. If an earthquake happens, this is the path to take. So there are plenty of such work we have done. Like we worked in India also in the similar planning on sexual harassment, where they have data on sexual harassment cases. And they came to us and said, can we help us, people, when they report about sexual harassment, tell them what is the safest path to go from where they are to the nearest police station or the hospital. And we saw that there are patterns of sexual harassment in the city, the time and the areas that happen sexual harassment. So if someone is reporting, is saying at a given point to an app that, hey, I'm facing sexual harassment, then the app will say, okay, this is the safest route for you to go, given the time of the day and the area, because these patterns, then it knows the previous incidences, so it can give you the personal safe route, and they're adding that in their app. So these are the various kind of work that we have done, and I can go on and on, speak about so many other topics. But I don't have the time here. But the key here to understand that we have been able to do a lot of work within a very short amount of time. Like only in 12 months, we have been able to work on 21 projects, 22 actually, and involving so many people from around the world. Now, the question is why this model works. And that answer also came from the people who were part of this environment and actually building it. And one of the guys, he's from Croatia, he said that one of the key aspects of what we have created is a very bottom-up self-organized environment. So in these kind of environments, the crucial conclusions and optimal decisions are taken as a community. So no one from the top decides for them, but the community, the group of people who are building it decides it. And because these people who often have faced the problem or part of the problem, then they find the best solution. And another thing that which they said that in this kind of, because it's such a group of people, 50 to 60, the best model wins. So they try different models, and then different groups of people, and then what is the best model wins. And this also ends up creating more ethical and inclusive solutions, because of course the people who are building the solution will not build something that they will not use or they will not like to use. So because they're part of the solution, bottom-up environment, this ends up being more ethical solution. And the third benefit, and the fourth benefit that we see a lot, is that people who are part of this kind of things, they really reskill and upskill their knowledge a lot. They say the amount of things they have learned is like really a lot in 2 months. So I will give you some of the examples of people what they have said. So in conclusion, what I'm arguing is that the environment that we have created, this bottom-up collaborative environment, is the best way to not only build good models, ethical models, but also to reskill. So, for example, in today's world, as many of you know, that reskilling and learning new skills, especially in this data science and AI, is quite important. And you can do your courses, but then you don't really then actually work on a real project. And what people have said that when they actually work on a real project through what we have built, is that they sometimes, like what Rosanna, she's actually from Brazil. She wrote that she more learned in 2 months than combined in the last year. So Xavier said that it was a good decision. So there are different people give different experiences, but by and large, they say that it helped them propel and learn a lot. On the other hand side, the organizations that we have worked with, they also say that it has hugely benefited them, because then we're able to make this kind of technology accessible to a large group of people and large group of organizations. And they're actually using these solutions, whether it's a World Resource Institute, when they say that they are using the results every day, or for example, from Safe City, they say that what we have been able to build in 2 months is what they have been trying for 2 years. Because again, this kind of very bottom-up group collaborative environment makes things model very fast. So before when I summarize, I thought of, if there's one picture that I would like you guys to keep in thought, is this is the picture that when we look as if we really want to go ahead and build AI that is successfully used by people, we have to use collaboration, we have to use through reskilling, and which has this high social value. We cannot use, which is where your collaboration is low, because we'll end up creating unethical solutions. And we need to build AI solutions which has a social value, which is solving social problems, which people can relate to. I mean, I personally do not see value of building an autonomous cars at this point. I think that money should be spent on solving other kind of problems, like what I was giving you some examples. So I write a lot, and feel free to read some of the articles that I've written, but there's plenty of them out there. One of the articles that is going to come in IEEE Ethics Journal is on this, building ethical and inclusive AI through bottom-up collaborative and collaboration, and I'm arguing why this is the right environment to work on. So thanks a lot, and feel free to add me on LinkedIn. And I like this picture because we were recently highlighted by NASDAQ in the billboard, which is a great thing for us. We didn't pay anything for that; it was for free. So yeah, I'm happy to take any questions if anyone has, or elaborate some of the comments or points that I have said, if someone wants that.
Okay, thank you, Rudrared. Someone has any question for him? Anyone? Well, we're gonna give you a few time, a little, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 minutes to create a question for you. And well, I just want to say that
I think we lost Priscilla. Do you lose Priscilla, Rudrared?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. I think I was thinking
you're here, but
yeah, I mean, I can answer the question if there is one guy who's asking Daniel. If I can answer that question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
How can SMEs in Mexico take advantage of us? I mean, of course you can. So you can go to the website, which is omdena.com. And there is, for organizations, you can send us a contact, or just add me on LinkedIn and send me a message. But I think that if you want to do on a global, like much wider scale, then just a website has the right place where you can put like this simple form, basically, where you can just write down your the question that you want to, or what you want to build, and I'll get back to you. So that's the way SMEs can use. We have been actually talking to someone from Mexico. I recently came to me from F6S, and she was talking to me, one of the big companies in Mexico are interested to work. So yeah, please feel to reach out. More than technical, the effort is in the person involved in project. What? I didn't get, Xavier, can you elaborate the question?
Which one are we reading? About the technical, more than a technical, the effort is in the person involved in project. He's asking more on the human side. I mean, more than technical, if the effort to implement AI in a company is on the human side or in the technical side of the technology.
Yeah, it is more on the people and the process, as I said, because the technology itself is kind of become very democratized, right? So there's tools like TensorFlows and Keras, and it is not that difficult to build. The key is that getting the right people and following the right process. Because if it was technical, then companies like Amazon and Facebook will never fuck up, and they all the time do it. So it's not a technical thing.
Okay.
So what tools do you use to do AI ML? Well, I mean, so if it's just about machine learning models, then you can use TensorFlow and Keras. There's a lot of libraries out there, right? We can use things like Google Colab, and then we also use Amazon Web Services, which are to support the platform. But again, so there is a lot of libraries. There are tools like, we also use things like Labelbox and Spell, which are, for example, a platform. Labelbox is to label data. So there's a wide range of tools that we are using.
Another question, Rudrared, it's from Araceli. She asking if you have any project here in our country, in Mexico.
No, we don't actually. We have a lot of people working from Mexico actually, maybe at least 50 to 70, but not any project from Mexico. No, I would love to do something there.
Okay, well, there's an opportunity for all of you who are listening today, and you lost me for a second, but I'm here now, and I was telling you that you are creating this artificial brain, which it's for the people and from the people. So I'm glad to hear that. And I mean, I don't know, artificial intelligence, it's more clear now for me than it was before. So thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Another question? No, I think it's all. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Ulises, bueno, pues vamos a esperar un momento a Ulises a que reconecte a nuestro último expositor. Entonces, ya saben, quédense por aquí y Ulises se va a encargar de todo. Y muchísimas gracias por atender a esta plática. En un segundo regresamos.